All right, hello everybody once again, and welcome to Geopolitical Trends, where truth matters. Once again, excited to be with you. So, I hope you enjoyed my earlier conversation with Professor Anna Malandog when we talked about the corruption that exists in the Philippines budget of 2025. So, very, very interesting conversation. So, anyway, so excited to be with you. Before I'll delve into today's topic, which will be about the President Trump's speech to Davos yesterday, I'm going to decipher a few things for you, provide a brief analysis. It's not going to be too long, provide some clips and so forth, just to put things in perspective for you. Because here's the thing that I always need you to understand. If you think that geopolitical matters, whatever, do not end up impacting you, I will say it straightforward, you are mistaken. Because any words coming out of president's mouth sometimes tends to turn into a policy. This is where the concern, and I decided to go ahead and do this presentation for you, this analysis rather, and then we'll just go from there. I will answer some super stickers if there are any, and I can thank you enough for your support, which, by the way, I saw somebody put a super sticker earlier in the conversation, and I sort of overlooked this one. So I'm going to track who those people are or were, and I give credit where credit is due. So before I'll do this, remember to join me tomorrow at 1900 hours for my conversation with Carl Zah. And on Sunday at noon, 12:30, whatever that time, usually we do 12:15. That's the standard time that I do. I'll be doing the community conversation with you guys because the end of the last Sunday of the month is tomorrow. So I'm going to be doing that. Be on a lookout for that tomorrow. So let me say hi to our wonderful community. And you all know, my apologies, because when I do interviews with guests, I don't have time to go through. But when I'm by myself here, I can do all this one here. So Willie Holman, good to see you. And Brianna Olivia, good to see you too. Alexi Rose, good to see you. Elisa Lewis, hello to you as well. Muslim Rex, good to see you. UTUZ Super and Phil from Ottawa. You know, I heard some bad things about where Canada is headed regarding poverty. And please, Phil, just share with the community here, since you are from there and you are on the ground, so you can see what's going on. So Truth Seeker, good morning to you. It's almost afternoon for me now, but good to see you. Li Yang, good to see you. Hang In Ji, as always, good to see you. And who is Hong Wong, good to see you. Zhao Yang, good to see you. Lolly Piltnen, good to see you. Timeline Dunkley from New York City, as always. And John Smith from New Zealand. I haven't seen you, John. I hope all is well. So I know people are busy and so forth. Army with Harmony, good to see you. I have a surprise for you on Sunday when I do the community community conversation. So I got a picture I'm going to share with you. So DDS, good to see you. And Mohammed Mazharuddin, good to see you as well. So, all right, let's guys get into our conversation. Well, of course, let me see. I have some pictures, but I believe I have some clips that I'm going to be sharing with you. I don't have the exact one for Trump himself, but again, anyway, we'll just move on. First, we'll go from there. So President Trump delivers virtually. He wasn't in Davos, by the way, just to put things in perspective. He wasn't in Davos physically. He did it via Zoom, whatever platform they use. But it was virtual. And basically, the two main things that struck me has to do with sort of vowing to end censorship in America. Wishful thinking, I would say. And second thing has to do with ending the Ukraine-Russia war. Well, wait a minute, Mr. President. If you want to end this and you are going about threatening Russia with sanctions, it just doesn't make any sense. But all this, it won't matter, because here is what we're going to be asking, because the key questions we're going to have to ask. And the key question is, can he deliver on what he stated? Because there was a lot in the speech, and I'm going to be breaking down this for you. Second thing is, was just this a tactic? no more, no less. And the third element that I feel, personally, I could be wrong, please correct me or share your opinion on this. Will I be right if I say that how some countries, mainly China, will respond to the content of President Trump? So what I wanted you guys to share in the chat box, whatever you think by me singling out China, am I right or wrong in this? For example, I didn't say Brazil. I didn't say Japan. I didn't say Germany. I picked China for a reason. Will I be wrong in this assessment? Just in the chat box, please put yes or no. And this is what I'm going to be addressing for you here, because I am going to divide this into 3 sections. The way I decided to do this, because I'm not going to be repeating whatever was in the statements. I have my own approach to how I do this. So I'm going to divide it into 3, as I said: energy, because it was addressed; geopolitics, of course; and economy to a degree. But before I'll do this, let me share the screen with you. Then we'll break it down by the time frame as to the speech in itself. So let me share a screen with you, and we're going to take a listen, and I'll be stopping it as I move forward in explaining a few things. All right, let's make this big. And please give me a thumbs up if you can hear, because I want to make sure, because I can hear it from here because I am blocking, so I won't hear the noise, but it goes out. It's an output anyway. So, all right, let's take a listen here.
In beautiful Davos. This has been a truly historic week in the United States. 3 days ago, I took the oath of office and we began the golden age of America. The recent presidential election was won by millions of votes, and all 7, every one of them, all 7 swing states. It was a massive mandate from the American people like hasn't been seen in many years, and some of the political pundits, even some of my so-called enemies, said it was the most consequential election victory in 129 years. That's quite nice. What the world has witnessed in the past 72 hours is nothing less than a revolution of common sense. Our country will soon be stronger, wealthier, and more united than ever before, and the entire planet.
Yeah, I'm going to have to stop there, because here's the thing. If we are to think in terms of the idea of our country is going to be strong and prosperous and so forth, and you are not putting first the infrastructure for that, you are not preventing more interventions around the world, how can you be talking about we're going to be stronger, peaceful, prosperous, and so forth? So to me, the discrepancy into all this is good to go. But I am going to be jumping between clips, because I have them right here. I have the time stamp for each one of them, and this is why, because it's long, it's about 13 minutes. I don't want you to be sitting here just listening to that, because I'm going to put the link for you guys and you can listen to it yourself. So all right, let me jump to, I'm going to go automatic directly to timestamp 8:15. So let me get to that, then we'll just go from there. And I'm going to be explaining a few things here. All right, we'll pick it up here.
We aren't particularly friendly with are happy, because they understand what there is a future and how great the future will be. Under our leadership, America is back and open for business. And this week, I'm also taking swift action to stop the invasion at our southern border. They allowed people to come in at levels that nobody's ever seen before. It was ridiculous. I decided and declared to do, and very, very importantly, a national emergency on our border, immediately halted all entry of illegal border crossers, of which there were many, and began promptly returning the illegal trespassers back to the place from which they came. That action, as you've probably seen, has already started very strongly. I've deployed active duty U.S. military and National Guard troops to the border to assist in repelling the invasion. It was really an invasion. We will not allow our territory to be violated. After 4 long years, the United States is strong and sovereign and a beautiful nation. Once again, it's a strong, sovereign nation. In addition, I'm pleased to report that America is also a free nation once again. On day one, I signed an executive order to stop all government censorship. No longer will our government label the speech of our own citizens as misinformation or disinformation, which are the favorite words of censors and those who wish to stop the free exchange of ideas and, frankly, progress.
All right, I'm going to stop right here, guys. Then we'll pick up the next clip. But I'm going to highlight to you the 2 key aspects of this, the immigration and censorship. Now, my point is not about, you all know the problems that exist. First of all, if you are an American watching this, you know what I'm talking about here when it comes down to immigrants. I'm an immigrant. All of us in America are immigrants. Tell me who's American here. So let me just put that on the table from the get-go, because there are always those who are mistaken. Well, you weren't born here, you are an American. That's nonsense. That's a bunch of baloney. Tell me who is an American here. None of us. We all came over here. So the land belongs to the Indian. We all know the history. We all know the dark side of the history of the government, what it did to the indigenous people. Well, I'm not going to get into that. What I'm going to get into is the idea that immigration has to be ruled by law. I witnessed when I was in China, for example, and I give China as an example because that was my recent overseas trip. I noticed the immigration process, how it works. They are in charge and in control of who's getting into their country and who's leaving their country. Would you blame them for that? No, I don't. As a matter of fact, I didn't have any issue going through. Just when I went from mainland to Hong Kong, to Taiwan, to Macau, I had to go through immigration. Was I bothered by that? No, because the whole process took no more than about 7 minutes. That's about it. The point is, because when I checked into Shanghai the first day and cleared immigration, they know exactly who is in the country. We happen not to have that. And in this case, President Trump is right as to what happened. Do I agree with him on everything? Of course not. But you give credit where credit is due. For what happened for the last 4 years, it was like, I live in Texas. I am only a few hours from the borders. It's not that far, 5, 6, 7 hour drive, whatever. But, when you are just opening, it's like your house, guys. Are you going to open your house to whomever? I mean, you're not going to do that. And same thing. So, because the previous administration just opened the gate, as a matter of fact, there were internal fighting between the federal agents and the state agents regarding the borders. Shame on that the previous government that did that. And he's one of the points he's addressing, and a lot of people seems to respond positively to this. So, in other words, immigration ought to be sort of managed properly. The second point he talked about has to do with the censorship. Now, this is a big. Why is it big, guys? Because remember, during the inauguration, who was in that front line? They were all major tech executives and so forth, from the likes of the hypocrites, Mark Zuckerberg, to what's his name, Jeff Bezos, and even Elon Musk, all of them there. So that tells you also the idea how those entities, especially when it comes down to Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, he was used and allowed himself to be used by the previous administration to censor speech. Come on. Don't tell me they force you. You can say no. As a matter of fact, I just found out yesterday, guys, that Microsoft, right now, as a matter of fact, I do have one link to this one if I can pull it from, if I get to it. If not, live goes on. So, no, I don't have it here. Anyway, found out that truth came out now that Microsoft, okay, the evil Bill Gates, Microsoft, is the one that's been providing the Israeli army. So I have a post right here. I'm going to share it with you guys. That's been providing the Israeli army with the technology infrastructure for all this. So, which is very, 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 very troubling. So, yeah, Microsoft, that's what it's been doing since the beginning of the war in Gaza. So, Microsoft, yeah. So, the same thing. But here is where the problem is that now President Trump has invited Bill Gates to one-on-one conversation. Makes you just wonder, is Trump playing both sides? So, so this is yeah. Let me share this with you guys. Super Steamer Suing Show. Thank you very much for your super sticker. You guys can read here. Must stop censoring Israeli crimes. So it's spot on, straightforward. So my point is, and again, I am not about pointing fingers here. I am about presenting the facts for you. So the idea that President Trump addressed these two main issues is of a merit that you guys need to know. Then I'm going to move to the next clip. I have two more clips. Then I'll move into my own analysis about this one. Let me get the clip 950 here. All right, let me share screen once again. There we go. Okay, play it right there.
We have saved free speech in America, and we've saved it strongly. With another historic executive order this week, I also ended the weaponization of law enforcement against the American people and, frankly, against politicians, and restored the fair, equal, and impartial rule of law. My administration has taken action to abolish all discriminatory diversity, equity, and inclusion nonsense. And these are policies that were absolute nonsense throughout the government and the private sector. With the recent yet somewhat unexpected great Supreme Court decision just made, America will once again become a merit-based country. You have to hear that word, merit-based country. And I've made it official, an official policy of the United States, that there are only two genders, male and female. And we will have no men participating in women's sports, and transgender operations, which became the rage, will occur very rarely.
All right, I'll stop there. And I'll address those three: merit-based, the gender, and law enforcement. Now, once again, he is talking about, now, is he just providing for domestic consumption? You decide, guys, especially for my American viewers. But at the same time, the issues that are mentioned are worth addressing. When we talk about merit, what am I talking about here? The merit when it comes down, for example, to promotions, the merit when it comes down to appointments, the merit. You all heard about the problems that took place with Boeing, you know, when the planes end up falling and all that stuff. Why is that? Because there were shortcomings into the proper procedure as far as putting the plane door the right way. Why? Because the person who was hired for that was hired based on so-called equity, so-called fair, whatever they call that, the Fair Act, something. The bottom line is there was no merit. If the person doesn't merit the position, you don't hire the person. That's like you guys. If you own a business and you want to move your business forward, are you going to be hiring incompetent people? Most likely no. The same argument I will make about the government itself. But on the other hand, if I am to challenge Mr. Trump, President Trump himself, and I say, if we are talking about merit, look at who you are appointing for Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, National Security Advisor, and so forth. So where is the merit we're talking about? No, you can't be playing both sides and assuming that people is going to fall for that. Second thing has to do with the gender, and it's a big issue, and I am not going to get into the weeds of I know where I stand, men and women think, but for others, that's their prerogative, it's their life, and so forth. The only thing I can tell you as an American, if you are watching this, you are watching where our country is headed, where our country is going when it comes down to this nonsense stuff. They are private. They do whatever they want to do with their private life and my business, and I am not judging. So that's me here. They are there. But the point that he brought this up highlight to you, those are the pressing tension issues that the previous administration overlooked completely. As a matter of fact, they pushed for that. And the Trump administration just fired the admiral, the female admiral, who directed the funding for the Navy, part of the Navy, whatever the division she was in, directed it into training about equity and so forth, instead of military training, instead of improvement of equipment, instead of. You got the idea. So, and the third thing is law enforcement. It's sad to see where things have become now regarding the law enforcement. Even law enforcement, sometimes they are cutting corners. They're supposed to stand for what's right. That is the whole idea of becoming a law enforcement agent or official, whatever your title is. But to be cutting corners just because you are law enforcement is not right. What a lot of Americans do not know is that those law enforcements, they work for us, not the other way around. The same thing with politicians in Congress, in corrupted Congress. They work for us, not the other way around. That is what's important. And the third clip I'm going to share with you before I'll jump into my own analysis starts at 11. Let me get the clip ready here. Actually, it's just right behind where I stopped. So let me pull it up here for you guys. There we go.
Finally, as we restore common sense in America, we're moving quickly to bring back strength and peace and stability abroad.
I have to challenge this notion, stability and peace abroad. Well, excuse me, Mr. President, whoever helped you craft the speech was misleading you, because most likely, and again, my guess, if I am wrong, I am wrong. Most likely, Mr. Trump didn't read the speech. He just didn't review the speech. He just read it. So to me, when somebody put there, for peace and stability, well, if we are this, why did we create? Why are we pushing more for funding of Ukraine? Why are we pushing more for funding in Israel? Why are we sending a team to Australia to start pave the way for tensions in that part of the world, especially in South China Sea? Why are we pushing more in the Philippines, South Korea, Japan? You got the idea. Why are we fomenting more tensions on the Taiwan Strait? So if we are to talk about peace and stability, you can't be saying one thing and doing the opposite. And I'll start with pointing a hawk for the Secretary of State. He already talking about sanctioning China. That's how idiotic it is. So, and I think time has come for China to hit back hard, because China's been playing Mr. Nice for a long time. I know it's the culture of if you look at the Chinese culture and history, you never see the aggression coming out of that country. Never was during their history. So, but time has changed. And I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, please just put yes or no. Do you think, here's the question for you, do you think the collective West is misinterpreting China's being nice for weakness? Yes or no? In your opinion, do you believe collective West is misinterpreting China being nice and kind and so forth, interpreting that to being weak? So I will greatly appreciate if you could put your answer in the chat box, yes or no. And this is my point into all this, is that the time has come to an end. And this is exactly, let me see quick before I'll continue the clip from Nusrat. You said yes. Rampulsa 1, you say yes. Sang Tan, you say yes. Li Yang, you say yes. Chris, you say, I don't think the West cares. That's true. However, they might be taking advantage of the Wishmaster. You say yes. Timeline Dunkley, you say yes, because, interesting. Here is what Timeline Dunkley, no, not this one here, right here. Yes, because China needs to teach America a hard lesson. No, I won't be surprised there. Shark Tank, so you guys got it. You got the idea. So that's my point. When president mentioning peace and stability, while on the other hand creating more tensions, it defeats the point. So let's continue with our clip here, and there is not much left on it. Then I'll jump into my conclusion, my analysis. I'm sorry.
So going to ask all NATO nations to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP, which is what it should have been years ago. It was only at 2%, and most nations didn't pay until I came along. I insisted that they pay, and they did, because the United States was really paying the difference at that time, and it was unfair to the United States. But many, many things have been unfair for many years to the United States. Before even taking office, my team negotiated a ceasefire agreement in the Middle East, which wouldn't have happened without us, as I think most of the people in the room know. Earlier this week, the hostages began to return to their families. They are returning, and it's a beautiful sight, and they'll be coming in more and more. They started coming back on Sunday. Our efforts to secure a peace settlement between Russia and Ukraine are now hopefully underway. It's so important to get that done. That is an absolute killing field. Millions of soldiers are being killed. Nobody's seen anything like it since World War II. They're laying dead all over the flat fields. It's a flat field farmland, and there's millions of Russians and millions of Ukrainians. Nobody's seen anything like it since World War II. It's time to end it. And here in America, we have big events coming up. Next year, we have the
Okay, I'm going to stop right there. Well, first of all, Mr. President, you need to take a look at history. You have to think about the Vietnam and Cambodia and Laos and how many died in those sort of crimes that's been committed, because we were involved in Vietnam. So you kind of, this is once again, I am feeling kind of whoever wrote this for the president wrote it with a specific agenda in mind, knowing that most likely the president will not review the speech. So, and again, right or wrong, you decide, you guys decide. But for him to say, we have never seen this since World War II, no, we have, because we saw what took place in Vietnam. How can Vietnamese forget what took place? Laos, Cambodia, and what's his name? Kissinger did. Same even with Madeleine Albright, what they did in Iraq, when she said, oh, those are just for the kids that were slaughtered, this ain't just, oh, casualty of war. No. That was very, very targeted specifically. So and this is where I just wanted to share this with you. So now let me break it down quickly. We're talking about NATO spending here. They want to increase into 5%. Here is the thing. Why do we need NATO for? You know, if again, and I said this before, if NATO's purpose was as a defensive alliance created in response to the Soviet Union, that reason for which the organization was created ceased to exist. There is no more Soviet Union anymore. So why is NATO? Why is it expanded far beyond the time when Soviet Union was still in existence? So to me, that's kind of, you are trying to hit two birds with one stone. You want to give the lip service to the domestic audience to say, yeah, I am forcing NATO to do this and that, when in reality, why do we even need to send them even 1%? Why are we supporting their military for? You know, Europe can defend against itself or against whomever, you know, and Russians not gonna. They are selling this narrative of Russia's going to invade Europe. It's nonsense. It is nonsense. Russia does not want to drag itself into a hole, because that's what it will be. So the idea of NATO in itself, why does it exist? So That's one thing. And second has to do with the Gaza hostages. So now, if the Trump administration is saying they are the one who brokered the deal, and most likely it is the case, you give credit. It is the case because pressured Israel on that. But it gave consensus to others. For example, what's taking place in two locations, the West Bank and the Jenin camp. I wish I still have the map for that, but I don't think so. And I could show it to you, but I don't think so. I have it. Anyway, that's the thing. So if we are saying we are creating peace and all that stuff by allowing lifting sanctions on the settlers, first of all, which been some violations there. Second, you are still sending money and weapons to Israel. So where is this peace and all that stuff? And the third one has to do with Ukraine saga, of course. Now, Ukraine is saying by cutting energy, well, first of all, that tells me right there, the president doesn't understand the big issue when it comes down to Ukraine. Energy is just part of that, but it's not about that if you only understand the history of Ukraine vis-a-vis back then the Soviet Union. Why do you think Russia will never let Crimea go? Because again, of the history of it. Same thing with Ukraine. And they are not. What the Russians are saying is, yeah, Ukraine, it's its own country. It just, we are not going to allow the presence of NATO forces on the ground in Ukraine. As a matter of fact, there is a conversation right now in Washington behind closed doors, and this might shock you, about establishing a U.S. military base in Ukraine. So that just makes me think, okay, there might not be a way out of all this, despite what you hear President is saying. Because once again, for those who do not know, American president is not in power. American presidents will be ordered what to do. Just we put this on a record. And I've said it so many times. I worked in Washington. I kind of was privy to knowing few things that doesn't make it to the public domain. So American president is ordered what to do. You look at just, and this is why I shook my head when I listened to the speech yesterday, because I had to listen to it in its entirety. We talk about peace. Well, if you only look at what we did in Vietnam, what we did in Iraq, what we did in Cambodia, what we did in Panama, what we did, all those, by the way, guys, they won't even declare the wars because it's our esteemed Congress that declares as corrupted as it can get. But constitutionally, the Constitution grants Congress the authority to declare war, not the president. All those conflicts that I mentioned were Afghanistan also. All of them were directed by the president, not by Congress. So this is where I see that double standards as far as, Ukraine has to do with ending energy. It's nonsense. Ukraine issue is fundamental security matters to Russia. Simple as that. It's because we broke our promise to the Russians after the end of the Soviet Union. We will never expand eastward an inch. That's exactly what the former Secretary of State James Baker said in Moscow, St. Cathedral. That's where he said, and look where we are. NATO expanded far beyond you can even imagine. So let me get into my own analysis, and I'm going to, as I said, three elements: energy, geopolitics, and economics. But I'm going to address the energy. Well, the energy aspect, first of all, this speech was a shock to the global elites. They didn't like the fact, and let alone that the president signed an executive order withdrawing the U.S. from the World Health Organization and promising to end censorship. We shall see. We shall see. So energy. What did the president mention? Had to do with drilling here in the U.S. Why? Because the moment the former idiot president Biden took office, the first order of business was an executive order to stop the drilling completely. Do you guys have any idea how much oil we have here in this country? And I'm saying this to my fellow Americans here. Do you have any idea? The problem why we are buying from overseas is because the refineries we have in Houston, which is near where I live, those refineries cannot refine. It's not a cannot. It requires a lot to refine the oil we have here. The oil we have is so dirty. It's not a clean or sweet, as it's known in the oil jargon, sweet oil. Like, for example, what Saudi Arabia has, like what Algeria, Libya, Nigeria, there is another, Kuwait, Iran, they all have sweet oil. We have a dirty oil, which requires a lot of refinement, and we don't have the infrastructure for it. As a matter of fact, and I was aware of this personally, that when we asked the Saudi, when I used to travel on behalf of the government to Saudi Arabia at that time, we asked the Saudi government to go ahead and invest in upgrading the refineries in Houston. They said no. And what they did after that, they went ahead and built a $10 billion, listen carefully, $10 billion refinery establishments in China. Of course, why did they did it? They did it for China? No. They did it because the Saudis knew that the shift of the global order is going east, that the demand for energy is going east. When I do presentations, sort of in my speaking, and I did one for, I think I did it for World Affairs also. I talked to World Affairs on many, many key issues because there were some elements coming to listen to what I have say. I knew some of them were involved with governments, some of them were involved with big corporations and so forth. So when I will do the presentation, I will talk about the demand that the Chinese market for the next 15, 20 years, 25. And I even had graphs and stats and all that due to the research, and it became clear. Even the energy, what do we call it? The International Energy Agency that deals with oils and all that stuff, predicting that by 2030, and remember, this presentation I did a few years ago, suggests that China's gonna need more. Why do you think China went ahead and cut a deal with the Russians? Why do you think China went ahead and cut a deal with Iran? Why do you think China's presence in Africa? Why do you think China is restructuring the pipelines from the Arctic? All this has to do with energy consumption. So the Saudis went ahead and invest in China, not in the U.S. So my point is, when President Trump talking about gas production, we do have a lot, to the point he is gonna name it now national energy emergency, end of quote. So because that was one of his acts as president. The problem for us in America is that every 4 years you get a new face that can change the policies. This is why we have no consistency in our policies. Is the system we have, but the American people end up paying the price for that. Look no further at what the previous administration puts us in when it comes down to the economy and inflation. Is this administration now is going to do anything different? I don't know. But I'm already seeing signs as to the tax credit that's going to be given to the corporations. He did mention he's going to give tax credit to us, average people. What that's going to amount to? $200, $400, $500? What is that? And I'm talking about somebody who cannot afford to make sure he or she has dinner. This is now what been discovered during the red notes. You all know about the TikTok and red notes. And I saw a video, a clip. As a matter of fact, I am going to share it with you. If you bear with me here, guys, because I'm going to be addressing this with Carlza. So take a listen, guys. It's heartbreaking. And those are Americans. Let me share the screen here. Americans on red notes. Yeah, take a listen, guys. Oh, where is it? Right here.
I don't know how to start, but I've been on your app for 2 days. and seeing the videos. And I can't believe
I'm starting to think that we're the bad guys and like we're the oppressed ones. Red Note's starting to make it look like communist China is like way better than capitalist America.
So this is my dinner in the United States. Cheap ramen. And I have to eat this because I'm broke from paying all my bills.
I'm so sick of fucking grocery store prices. I'm so sick of it. I have stopped eating. I am at a calorie deficit at this point so that my child can eat.
A wave of emotional breakdowns has swept across American users on Chinese Red Note app, a platform that allows users to explore life in China through unfiltered stories and connections.
Anyway, I just wanted to share a clip with you. I will be detailing this when I have my conversation with Kalza. So, but just to highlight to you the idea, it's the and of course, what happened for the last 4 years with the censorship is because of that. Heck, they sent me emails right here. I mean, they don't do it as much as they used to. As a matter of fact, they haven't done it for a few months now. So, but I was like, when I tried to challenge, I was like, why? This is like a public domain information. So you don't want Americans to know, which exactly what it turns out to be. That was the whole idea of TikTok. TikTok wasn't about privacy or national security. It was about preventing Americans from knowing the truth. So simple as that. So when you think about, to go back to my energy, that now we're going to be seeing more access to energy. How is that going to translate to the average citizens? I don't know, because President Trump is already trying to pressure OPEC to lower prices. Keep dreaming, Mr. President. OPEC doesn't respond to you. Of course, President Trump did one particular thing right away. You know what it was? I had a conversation with the Crown Prince. You all know, the one that ordered the killing of Jamal Khashoggi in BS, and asked him to invest $600 billion in the U.S. So as a matter of fact, he's asking him to put it up to $1 trillion. This is nothing new. Back in my days, when unemployment in America goes up, all we do is we reach out to the Saudis. We ask them to write a check for $60 billion. I know it's a large sums. That's what Trump is asking for. But to give you an idea, the Saudis will write a check for $60 billion and get some U.S. weapons. So there is nothing new here. So the Saudis also are shrewd enough that they know, of course, that we will sanction them. They don't want to be sanctioned. Why? Because they have so much money in this economy. As a matter of fact, in the U.S., if Americans are paying attention, and now they know the truth, if the Saudis pull out their money out of the U.S. economy, we will have some serious trouble. But the Saudis already calculated the shift to the east. That's why they want to head with China. They want to head with the Southeast Asia markets and so forth, because they know where it is. So the idea of Trump's gonna ask OPEC to, even if OPEC lowers it, OPEC Plus is not gonna do that, because OPEC Plus doesn't respond or doesn't bow to OPEC or to America for that matter. And the thing is, those decisions are almost certain have to do with the geopolitical consequences. So this is how it is, because anytime there are changes to the geopolitical landscape, it's reflected into the gas pump and vice versa. Do you ask me if I ever, as a Texan, do you ever ask me if I will ever see gas prices here go above $1.75? I tell you, you are smoking weeds, because we're in Texas. It never goes up. Now, I just saw it this morning, is $2.69. So that just to give you an idea. The other thing that President Trump mentioned in his speech, which is very, very calculated, this one has to do with the suspension of U.S. foreign aid for 90 days, for 3 months. With the suspension of that, to whom? foreign aid to whom? Who do we give the major aid to? You got now Ukraine, Israel, Jordan, Egypt, to my knowledge. That's to my knowledge, that's it. Yeah, there are other countries here and there. They do take some aids from us, but that's what it is. But the idea that aid is going to solve the issues, no, it will not. Even now, Germany in itself, and you all know Germany with its incompetent, soon is going to be out of office. That's my prediction. Even Germany now is suspending the 3 billion euros was supposed to give to Ukraine. Yeah, it's because because Europeans now is going to feel the pinch once Trump applies the tariffs on the Europeans. So I'm going to be in Europe and I'm going to find out where things are, and I will report to you from there if I get a chance to do so. So that is where the difference is. I just wanted to highlight this to you. And of course, for our neighbors to the north and the south, Canada and Mexico, Canada is getting even worse now with the poverty level going and the chaos that exists within government, thanks to the dictator Trudeau. That's simple as that. But again, it's the Canadians that have to decide their fate or their future, whatever they see fit. So now, on the geopolitical aspects of this, as I mentioned, the geopolitical aspect is going to see now some major changes moving forward. But it changes that I don't see it going in the right direction. And again, I am an outsider looking in as to when I see the movements of certain teams that fly in from Washington to certain locations, that gives me an idea. Once again, I am not bragging here, guys. I was inside, so I understand how these dynamics work. You don't acquire knowledge and experience just from watching YouTube or reading a book or two, whatever, if you are not on the ground. So, as I said last time, what I see coming is in South China Sea. It's in that part of the world. And I hope some cool heads will prevail. As a matter of fact, the Philippines, just this morning, announced that they're going to be removing or reallocating, that's the key word, reallocating the missile systems by the U.S. that is in Philippines is going to another location. Why is it going to another location? Because Chinese medium-range missiles targeting that particular location. And if the Americans or the Filipinos think that the Chinese are not going to find out, they are mistaken. It's because the satellite systems are not under the U.S., because that's how we controlling all the Europeans, because any data regarding flights and so forth and target and whatever has to go through U.S. satellites, which means we have the access, we have the control of who sees what. With China, we can't, because China has its own Beidou or Beidou. For those who speak Chinese, if you can help me out with the pronunciation of this. But the English version, Beidou, that is in the system, the equivalency of GPS. So China doesn't worry about, and China will be able to find out where those missiles are. So that's my point. And the fact that you have now Marco Rubio as a Secretary of State, a hawkish that is already advocating for, one, sanctions of China, two, upgrading the Quad that includes India and Australia and the U.S. So, and the UK or Japan, I couldn't even remember. So the fact that India is buying into all this nonsense instead of taking care of the country, which is Modi, that is, it tells you the story right there. And speaking of that, there is now an issue on the border between China and India. And I am going to do, as a matter of fact, I did post for you guys in the community. Let me see what it is. Yeah, on the slopes of the Himalayas, the created border conflict between India and China. My question to you guys, do you like me to do a video on that? that particular part. There is a lot of things going on behind the scenes from Western capitals regarding this particular issue. So this border dispute is by design. So instead of, just to go back to my point, instead of having Mr. Modi think about the welfare of India, think about the infrastructure, think about economy, health, education, and so forth, unemployment, instead you are getting more deeper into this quad stuff that the US pushing. Only if if India and Australia and UK and Japan and South Korea and all the Philippines, only if they come to conclusion that it's their forces that's going to be used in front line, not the Americans. That's exactly what was in Iraq. Who do you think was fighting in Iraq? Were the American soldiers? No. There were some, but they were mercenaries from Colombia, from Venezuela, from some other parts. That's what it is. So the geopolitical aspects of it, we have to understand where this those kind of decisions are in line with the so-called foreign policy framework. Yeah. So, and I never believed for the last 40 years plus, I never believed we had any foreign policy, cohesive foreign policy structure. None. We're just reacting to events as they happen. So the third element is the economy. So, and this is where the President Trump spoke with. The first person was the Saudi Crown Prince. You know, it's to show that we still can dictate the terms to the Saudis. You know, despite the reestablishment of the diplomatic ties between Iran and Saudi Arabia, thanks to China, we still wield influence over Saudis. Saudis won't be able to do anything if they cross the Americans because they know what's going to happen. And all you need to do for the Saudis is just unleash internal entities that are not happy with the monarchy. That's all it is. So I spend a lot of time in Saudi Arabia. As a matter of fact, this picture here, guys, this is in one of those locations. So you hardly ever see the government go over there. So this is the empty quarter. It's called the empty quarter, or in Arabic is known as Ar-Rub al-Khali. Way out there in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, we were the only one. You don't see humans moving around there. So that gives you the idea. All you need to do is unleash some sort of groups. And because we've done this before, we are doing it today in Syria. How do you think that Al-Julani, that terrorist guy, came to power? So you got the idea. So economically speaking, we wanted to pressure Saudis first, because when it comes down to OPEC, who do you think of? Saudi Arabia. You don't think Iraq. You don't think Sudan. You don't think Venezuela. Even though Venezuela is a major oil producer, but it doesn't wield power inside OPEC. It's the Saudis, because the money, they use the funding to silence whomever. As a matter of fact, during the Afghan war back then in the 80s, it was the Saudis that funded the fighters back then against the Soviet Union. So, and here is what President Trump said. And I quote, "I think they, meaning Saudis, they will do that," meaning invest $1 trillion, $600 billion or $1 trillion, because we have been good to them. End of quote. Read between the lines. We've been good to you in protecting your behind from being expelled. And if you really want to learn more about these guys, and again, if you are interested in learning, go and read my book about the Saudis. And this book was cleared by the US government in Washington. So I was authorized and allowed to disclose what's in it, except for two things. They are redacted there. You can, if you're smart enough, you can read between the lines. You will be able to figure that out. So if you are interested in this one here, you can go ahead and let me put the link for those who might be interested in getting a copy of the book. So, and I know many of you already. They get the copy. I put it in the chat box for you guys. So, and this is part of what I used to do my presentations about, because I was always ahead of the curve per se, because I needed to make sure that the audience or whomever I'm giving the speech to, the entity that I'm giving a speech to, because it can save them serious amount of money. That's the reason why they will ask me to give a talk for them. Of course, I didn't do it for free. I'll be honest about it, because that's just how it works. So here is my link to the speaking. If any of you are interested, or your entity, I'll be happy to do a talk for you guys. So, all right, what else I need to cover? That's all I have to share with you regarding this one here, because it's the idea of understanding the meaning of speech. The one thing that I need you to get out of all this is that the elite, global elites now have to reconfigure their approach, because when the U.S. pulled out of the World Health Organization, that's a big blow to the elites over there. When the U.S. now, President Trump said he's going to restore this the freedom of speech, till we see talk is cheap, as we say, the saying goes in America. So till we see where things are, I'm going to hold my judgment on this, and I'm going to keep my eyes open, and I will report to you at a later date to see where things are. So, but for now, it gives you an idea about the tone of the speech that was right in your face. That's just the personality of Trump. No offense to Timeline Dunkley, you're from New York. You know, I used to live near New York when I went to my undergraduate school in Pennsylvania, and New Yorkers are by nature very high strung. So that's just the personality of it. So, and this is why you're going to have to think in terms, even when you think of countries in, for example, in West Asia, where they are investing right now. Are they investing in the US? It's because the President Trump is saying, oh, I will give incentives to corporations if they invest in America. Who wants to do that if you can sanction them if they don't like what you are doing? So, and right after that, as a matter of fact, I wish I could have kept this for you, because he said it. He said it, that the idea of man, where is that one? Yeah, let me see if I can get it for you guys. So yeah, right here, guys, I found it. So I'm going to share it with you quickly, just for you to hear, just to put things in perspective, like I always say. And it's worth listening to just very, very short. And this particular point is about encouraging foreign countries to invest in the US. Well, not too fast, Mr. President. Let me, right here, guys, take a listen.
In a single month, that's the highest ever. There's never been anything like that. SoftBank has announced between a $100 and $200 billion investment in the U.S. economy because of the election result. And just 2 days ago, Oracle, SoftBank, and OpenAI announced a $500 billion investment in AI infrastructure. Other companies likewise have announced billions and billions and billions, adding up to trillions of investment in America, in the United States. And it's also reported today in the papers that Saudi Arabia will be investing at least $600 billion in America, but I'll be asking the Crown.
So that's the one about the idea of companies now wants to invest in America. No, because that's not true. That's not true. The reason I'm saying this is because they are seeing how big BRICS is getting. which means the expansion of it is going to translate to other aspects regarding the financial aspects of the financial currency. So BRICS will want to do all at its power to avoid trading and transacting in the US dollar. So the sanctions we imposed on Russia was the nail on the coffin for the Americans. Simple as that. So I don't foresee any jobs coming back to the US. And for Mr. Trump to say about the $500 billion in AI, the Elon Musk already is pushing against that already. So, and I wish I can, let me check one thing here for you guys. I want to share something with you quickly. And I do have it. Yeah, I don't know if you can see this one here or not. Right here. I can access it from here. Basically what it is, this person is by the name Shen Jin. She is the award-winning computer scientist and blockchain expert. She lives here in the US. She's leaving the US for China. She's a Chinese. So when you think about the brain drains that now we are experiencing in America, the media, by the way, it's not talking about it at all. So I'm going to pull this link and I'm going to post it for you guys in the description. I wasn't even aware of her myself. You know, Xin Zhen, award-winning computer scientist and blockchain expert, leaves the US for China. It says specialist in computational economics, brings a dual perspective after returning to Beijing at Tsinghua University as a professor. She's already there. So now you guys see why I want to go and teach in China. Anyway, so let me answer some of your questions in the those who put the super stickers. Say thank you also, and I'm gonna track to those who have posted during my previous. My apologies. When I have guests, I like to focus on this. No offense, but I am gonna take care of that. I'm gonna take care of that. So, all right, let's say thank you to Super Steamer Swing once again. Show. Thank you so much for your super sticker. Truly appreciate you. Daniela, once again, I appreciate your support, and I've been aware of your, Daniela is one of those quiet, behind the scenes, quietly, but she's been supporting the channel, and I am very, very grateful to you, Daniela. So, Francis Tango, it goes without saying, that's has been supporting the channel all along. So, question: Saudi Arabia in BRICS or out? Dr. O, I'm unclear. I see what you mean. I am becoming to sense, guys, in response to Francis Tango's question, might not be a good idea for Saudis to join BRICS. Because if you couldn't take stand when it matters, they said they wanted to join BRICS, all of a sudden flipped. That to me is unreliable partner. You can't. I wish there is a way for BRICS to deal with Iran, with India, because India also is not reliable. So it will be better off if they can figure out a mechanism by which to ask India to leave BRICS. So that's to me how I see it. It's just not gonna. It's not gonna be a good idea for BRICS moving forward with those kind of members, players, whatever term you want to use. It's just not gonna be good for that. So. Okay, let me see. Also wanted to say thank you to, I got to log into my my account here for to say thank you to those who bought me tea, and they were already in support of my upcoming Asia trip. So I'm trying to log in here, and I would like to give a shout out to some names. Some of them I got an email saying that it's okay to disclose the name, and those were substantial donations in support of the trip. So I'll start with Sylvia. Sylvia, I want to say thank you for your support for my Asia trip. So someone bought me 3 cups of tea. So Another one by the name W-Wild202. Thank you so much. So Hato Khan, thank you so much for buying me tea for my Asia trip in support of that. I0807, thank you very much for that. Calvin, thank you so much for your support of my Asia trip. And Van H. Wong, thank you so much for that. On my, because I have two, guys, you know that. I have one for only Asia trip, which is this one. And I have the other one on my, the regular support for the channel. Let me put the link for you guys, for those who wants to support the Asia trip. And I am very grateful to you. Okay, where is that one? Right there. Okay, I'm gonna put the link in the description. I think I already did. But anyway, I'm gonna put it in the description for you guys, for those who wants to support my upcoming Asia trip. And I'm gonna share it on a screen so you guys can see which one is that. There we go. There's this one right here. So the other one has to do with, as I said, some of you have shared support. Like, for example, Jean Levelier. They put a major donation in support of the channel, but I kind of left it to me to decide, do I use it for the channel or use it for the Asia trip? So I decided to use it for the Asia trip. So thank you very much, Jean Levelier. I saw it. Really, it's a French name, by the way, guys, and I'm very grateful for that one. So all right, let me see something else here. Let me go back, see if there is any other. Yeah, so remember, once again, I'm gonna sign off here soon. Remember to join me tomorrow at 1900 hours for my conversation with Kaza. And guys, by the way, I think I haven't decided yet, but I am in a process of considering not using this platform, the StreamYard, anymore. So, and the reason being because they doubled their monthly fees for that. So to me, it's not from a business perspective, doesn't make any sense for me to keep that. So this is why I am doing all the live streams and all that, and I'm gonna close this account by the end of the month and then move elsewhere. The only difference is in YouTube, I won't be able to share pictures with you. So, but we'll figure it out. I'm working on something else. So, but I wanted you to know what things are in case you see a different screen and so forth. Once again, I appreciate you being here. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. As always, remember, geopolitics impacts your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.